Welcome back to the shop. I'm trying sort of a different format here. I think that it would be helpful if I told the viewers exactly what I was going to do in the beginning of the video. That way they don't have to sort of skip their way through and figure out what I'm doing. This wing divider was broken. It didn't have the nut on it or the spring, so I just dug around in my shop and found some stuff to repair the spring and the nut, and then I silver solder all that together. So that's the crux of what I'm covering in this video. Let's get started. Welcome back to the shop. I was cleaning up some tools and some Vapo rust, some ply wrenches, the Eiffel ply wrenches, and some Lyman pliers. And I had this wing compass in here, and the wing compass was pretty rough looking, and I knew that it had some problems. And I knew it was some sort of dividing head. And when I went to go look in my book, I realized that, I'm sorry, I'm trying the camera on a different type of stand now to try to reduce the shakiness. So it'll take me a while to get it acclimated to this new, orientation. So here's the wing compass that I have. It is broken in two different ways, I think. It's supposed to, it's not only, it's broken here, they had welded it on, and I didn't realize that not only is it broken there, that was an incorrect repair before. What we're supposed to have, and what this is missing, is a spring here, and then a fine adjustment nut. So that means, and I can see through, hopefully you can, very hard for me to see what you're seeing. See the second hole up here? That would have been the mount for the spring, and then of course the bolt, the fine adjustment screw, is broken off of there, so that's not any good. So I was digging around and I found a bolt that fits through this hole pretty nicely. I don't have a pretty nut for it or anything like that, a nice knurled nut as of yet. But for the sake of moving forward, I think I might be able to silver solder this onto the end of here and perhaps repurpose this set of tweezers as a spring for my wing. That's why they call these the wing compass. So it should be interesting to go through the motions on this. I'm thinking that I probably have a 30 or 40% chance of this working out correctly, but it's worth a shot. It should be interesting, and if it works, it'll be fun, and if it doesn't, you'll never know about it. One of the viewers wrote me a couple weeks ago and says, Joe, thanks for the videos, but please for God's sakes, find some way to keep the camera from shaking. Oh, is the camera still shaking? Ah, it's still shaking. The benches are touching. I've got the camera hooked to a second workbench, and they are just touching. I try to keep the benches shoved together. They're all the same height. But anyway, this hopefully will minimize it. I'll keep working towards keeping the camera as still as possible. I shoot with a cheap Sony 405 camera, and it doesn't have much in the way of stabilization, so I can't keep up with the guys with the fancy cameras. Okay, two little spot welds. So I've got an issue. This is springy, which is nice. This is exactly what I need. However, it's very hard, and I don't think I'll be able to drill through it. So I might need to grind through it, and that could be a problem. I could heat this up and anneal it, soften it up, but then it would lose its springiness and just turn into a bendy piece of metal, and that's not good. So I'm gonna futz around with this a little bit and try to get a hole in it. So this is not a great plan, but it's a plan. This is a masonry bit with a carbide tip on it, and that carbide should be pretty hard. And I'm thinking that if I could just get that hole started through there, then I can come through the other side and open it up. Well, so I was able to use the carbide bit to, I probably heated it up just that one section and softened it up just a touch, and then I was able to drill through it with that high-speed steel. Hopefully that maintained the springiness. So the hole that I have looks pretty good. I've got a little bit of a bend in this. I'm not exactly sure how I want that to... There'll be some fine-tuning maybe. But what I need to do now is cut a slit in here so that this can go through it. And we saw how much of a hard time I had with it with the drill bit. But this should be much easier to cut the relief in here because the wing part is the exact same size as my cutoff wheel. Now I need to concentrate on adhering this bolt to the end of here. I think silver solder will be the way to go for that. So there's the wing sitting on top of the nut that I just took to the wire, to the sander to clean off all the stuff that's on there, and I got some silver solder. I'm going to put a little bit of silver solder on each side of this joint. Yeah. So there is the silver solder without any wire wheeling or cleaning, but look at that. That is such a nice connection in there. It is really fun stuff to work with when it works. It fights me from time to time. And my geometry might be a little bit off, but you know, we'll keep moving and see what happens. Well, I messed up a little bit. I'm a little bit off on here, so I'm going to have to unsolder that and reposition it, but it gives me an idea. Perhaps I should use it in this device when I solder it together. So I'll go ahead and unsweat this, and we'll put it in here and redo that joint. It should be perfect then. I should have thought of that before. Now these are called slotless screws or drive rivets, and I believe this is exact right size. I just happen to have a big bag of these. I had a project and I had to buy at least like 200 of them, so I've got enough to last me for the foreseeable future, and I'm going to use that slotless screw to drive this in. I made a mistake. I was misunderstanding how this went together. I need to make this not a slot, but I need to make this a hole that this guide can go into, and it doesn't need to be that long, but for what we're doing here, I just need to open up the hole a little bit wider to receive this bolt, and then we should be good because it has a nice wide head on it. I shouldn't be so pessimistic. This is coming out to get pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this. Now I'm a little disappointed that I didn't put more thought into picking the nut out, because I'm actually, got it done. I need to figure out a better way to get a nut on here. A nice knurled knob would be nice, but I really don't have anything that I think would work right. But I have a bunch of these square nuts. Perhaps I can silver solder one onto there. Well, I had to go back and do some fit and finish, some final adjustments, and unsweat and resweat this silver solder joint, because the alignment is very finicky here. But you can see that what happens is when I tighten this screw up, it pulls that spring in, and when I let it out, the spring pulls out, which is exactly what this tool is designed to do. That's the fine-tune adjustment. So when I lock this tool in at a certain distance, if I wanted to bring it in, I could bring it in just a touch, and if I backed it off, it's going to go ahead and that spring will push everything out. So not a tremendous amount of work, you know, probably an hour or two into the whole thing, but I think if there's a takeaway from this, the silver solder is very interesting, and it's so easy to work with. It's a lot of fun. I'll put a screenshot of what I had in there. And then the other thing, that the slotless screws, Hansen Rivet Supply, is the company that I got this from. This was years ago. I forgot what project I was working on. Oh, that was a motor. I was putting a nameplate on a motor. But anyway, that's it. I think it's interesting, different than any other kind of repair I've ever done before. And I think I'm hopeful that the spring, the tweezer spring, should be a good fix for this. And I really had to. I did it off camera, but I used the press to put that slotless screw in there, so that sucker is really in there. But anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and I hope you're having a good day.